Good evening. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Let's wait for you to log in. All right. My name is Anna Popławska and I'm from EduNation Global. Today we are going to, oh, yes, now I can see the number of people watching us because for a second I just saw zero and my mind just went, thinking like, my God, have I sent you the links? Yes, I have. Okay, good. So I have people watching me, so now I can relax. And before I start basically the webinar, okay, so let's make sure that you can see and you can hear me, all right, because I saw the zero and I totally forgot everything I do in the beginning of the webinar. Okay, I can see that, hi Katarzyna, hi Lanta, hi Litsi. I can see that we already have people watching us. Good. All right, so maybe I will just warm up people in the beginning. Okay, so guys, where are you from? Okay, where are you watching us? I can see that we already have people from Poland, but let's see what other countries are you from? Okay, I know that there is around 15 seconds of delay, so I know that in a second I will get the answers. All right, so let's see where you are from. Okay, Slovakia, Peru. Wow, what time is it now in Peru? Oh my God, I think Prague. Okay, but you live in Prague. Okay, so probably close to our time. Okay, and again from Prague. Perfect. I'm very happy that so many people from around the world really join us during our webinars. Oh, and I know that people from Facebook also are watching us. So I'm very, very happy that you are here. Okay, another Czech Republic and Macedonia. Nice, nice audience. All right, guys. So now I'm kind of relieved that you can see and you can hear me. So again, my name is Anna Popławska. I'm from EduNation Global, and I'm very, very happy to welcome you today to our webinar for international audience for EduNation Global. I would like you to meet my colleague, Eva Torebko. Hi, Eva.
Hi, Anna.
Hello. Eva is part of EduNation, and she's a wonderful teacher, really, really talented author, and very, very creative person. I love working with Eva. Eva is also author of our ebooks. For sure, you've downloaded some of them. And today I'm going to leave Eva with you the topic dramatically better speaking. We will all love, teaching speaking, and it's really, really important. And Eva, I will disappear now. So the audience and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Anya. Okay, good evening, everyone. And first of all, I would like to apologize for my slightly creepy look. It's not intentional, it's just my lighting situation. If you find it too unsettling, just concentrate on the slides and not on me. So, my name is Eva Torebko, and I've been a teacher of English for 22 years now. And teaching speaking and using drama in the classroom have both been my favorites since I can remember, actually. And if I can combine the two in my classroom, I do. And I suggest that you do too. I'd like to begin with a little disclaimer relating to the title of this webinar. I really do hope that you are not expecting me to give you ideas on how to improve your students' speaking skills overnight. That I cannot promise, and I don't think anybody can or should for that matter. What I can promise, however, is that the ideas I'll be talking about, the activities I'll be presenting for you, can help you students become more engaged and more confident about their speaking skills. And I believe that ultimately that engagement and that confidence will lead to them improving their speaking skills. So what's up with the drama? First of all, I wanted to point out that my intention tonight is not to encourage you to set up a drama club in your school or put on performances, though I've done that myself, and I do know how satisfying it can be on the one hand, and how time-consuming and exhausting on the other. If you're doing that, or if you're planning to, that's fantastic, fingers crossed, but that's not what I'll be talking about today. I'll be talking about activities which are either straight up taken from drama classes or which borrow some ideas or techniques from such classes and which you can use with your students in your classroom, in your everyday teaching, without sacrificing anything and without dramatically changing what you usually do. So what do I mean when I say drama activities? These are exercises used by professional actors or students working, learning to become actors, which they use to work on their craft, to polish their skills when preparing to perform in front of an audience. The good news is you don't have to be good at performing in front of an audience to take advantage of such activities, whether you are a student or a teacher. I'll be mentioning different advantages of such activities when I give you examples and explain how to use them. So let's begin then. So the first and probably the oldest drama-inspired activity I know is dialogues with cards or dice. So to run this activity, you need dialogues which you either already have in your course book or which you as the teacher write for the purpose of this activity, or even better, dialogues that your students write either for the purpose of this activity or some dialogues they previously wrote and have them in their notebooks. So if the dialogues involve two speakers, the students will be working in pairs. If more, you will have to adjust the numbers accordingly. So each pair of students will get a set of the same cards that you draw from one deck or more decks if you've got more students. So for instance, each pair will get an ace, a king, a two, a six, etc. On the board, you write the names of these cards, and next to them, you write different adverbs or different expressions that describe the way in which you want these lines in those dialogues to be read. It could be something very simple, like slowly, quickly, cheerfully, sadly, or miserably, or something more advanced, like reproachfully, mockingly, vengefully, in a bold way, in a suspicious manner, etc. So the students will draw a card from the set you gave them. And in the first version, each pair draws one card from the set they've got. And each of the two speakers will read their lines in the way matching the card they drew. Of course, when they finish, you ask them to swap their roles and draw another card and start over. So this is the first version, the boring version, I call it. It's much more interesting if each speaker draws a different card and each of the students reads their lines in a different way. So let's say student 1 reads in a vengeful way, student B in a mocking way, for instance. And again, if when they finish, you ask them to swap the roles and start over with new cards. If the dialogues are on the longish side, you might ask the students to pause halfway, draw another card, and proceed, finish the dialogue. Another idea would be to include the joker card in the mix. And the student who draws the joker is allowed to come to the board, remove one of the suggestions, one of the expressions, and write something they come up with. And then the whole class will have to conform to this change if and when they draw the card matching that expression. Another idea would be to include the listener. So this would work if the students have to work in a group of 3. For instance, you've got an odd number of students and one pair will have to be a group of 3 if you personally don't take part. So if the dialogue involves 2 speakers, one of the third student will be the listener. Another reason why you might pick this version is when you don't have enough cards for all the students, or perhaps you want to practice this dialogue in this way. So anyway, the speakers draw the cards, each of them a different one, and they keep them secret from the listener. they proceed with their dialogue, and when they finish, the listener's job is to tell them which cards he or she thinks they drew, judging by the way they read their lines. Of course, next you will ask the listener to become one of the speakers, and they will proceed with different cards. Ideally, you should have 3 rounds so that each person in a group of 3 can be the listener once and the speaker twice. Another idea is another variation of this activity is to replace the cards with dice, which might be more available to most teachers. You might use physical dice, or those which you can find online and students can have on their phones. You might use traditional classic 6-sided dice, or if you've got access to others like fancy schmancy 12-sided ones or 20-sided ones, that's fantastic as well. On the board then, you put the numbers and next to them those adverbs and expressions. If you want to include this joker variation, you might assign the same privileges that the joker had to the highest number on one of the sides of the dice. And why do it? You might ask, and rightly so, where is the speaking in this activity if the students are using ready-made dialogues? It seems it's mostly about reading and listening, and that is all true. But I think you will agree that before we can expect our students to produce something of their own, it might be a good idea to expose them to model dialogues, which they can practice multiple ways, which they can drill multiple times in a fun, engaging, non-threatening way. Another thing that I'd like to point out is, because this is the first drama-inspired activity I've mentioned today, and what I'm about to say is true for all of them. Notice that in this activity, the students are expected to sound different from what they usually do. So they might be afraid of sounding silly or of being exposed to ridicule in front of their peers. You shouldn't go for drama-inspired activities like this one if your students are at this stage of their group development when they don't feel yet comfortable being silly together and with each other. You need to make sure you will have lots of laughter, lots of lively role playing, and not awkward silence. We don't want students to feel threatened. First, you need to make sure they are ready for it. And this is true for all the activities I'll be talking about tonight. Okay, let's go to the next activity, which is called Don't Hesitate. And this is an improvisation kind of activity. And to run it, you need a bunch of different topics, which you might ask your students to prepare and put them on the board or on little strips of paper. Or if you want to have more control over what the students will be talking about, you might prepare such topics yourself. And of course, then you will go for those which you want your students to practice talking about. So the students will either randomly pick their topics, or the easier version would be when they pick a topic for themselves. Then they will probably go for something they find easy to talk about. And the third version, the most difficult one, will be when each student picks a topic for someone else. And then they will, of course, go for something they think the other person will find challenging. So once they get their topics, they will start. And the objective is not to hesitate or pause in an unnatural way when speaking. So let's say student A begins talking about their topic, and student B cannot take over, cannot start talking about their topic until student A hesitates or pauses in an unnatural way. Only then can student B take over. Of course, if students work in pairs, if student B hesitates, it goes back to student A. If you've got bigger groups, it goes to student C or D and then back to A. The activity ends when the time you set for the activity is up, and the winner, so to speak, is the student who is speaking at the moment the time is up. So this is like the basic version of this activity. Now I'm going to give you some ideas for different tweaks and tips how to modify it to suit your classroom situation. So the first idea is that this activity can actually be used even with lower level students. You simply give them simpler, more everyday topics to talk about, something that they can realistically be expected to produce longer utterances about. For higher level students, I would choose something more difficult, some topics which require either more knowledge of the world, topics where they will have to give lots of opinions and justify them, or simply topics that in a natural way will require more difficult vocabulary and grammar. We want a challenge for lower level students, but we want them to be able to jump up to that bar. So the bar must be high, but low enough for the students to realistically get there if pushed. For higher level students, the fact that we've got a higher level topic should be enough. But for higher level students, you might also give those lower level topics, those simple everyday ones. But to give them the challenge, you need to give them something to work around, something to use when they talk. And my first idea is to include taboo words. So once the students know what the other person in their pair will be talking about, they produce a list of words that the other person is not allowed to use in those everyday simple topics. That's what I'm talking about right now. And student A will have a task which is twice as hard. So they will, student B will be able to take over when student A either hesitates in an unnatural way or when they use one of the taboo words. Words which are in a very natural way logically connected with the topic, but which they are not allowed to use. Of course, if you think that that's too much of a challenge for your students, you can give them a few free passes. So let's say student B can take over when student B either hesitated for the third time or perhaps used one of the taboo words for the second time. If you think that's too hard, if you don't give them passes, just introduce them. The other idea is to use prompts. And the first version of using prompts is for lower level students, especially when they know what the other person will be talking about. They can prepare a list of words or phrases that should help the other person keep talking. So these will be words in a natural way connected with the topic, but this time they are not taboo. Actually, student A will have to use them. And actually for those lower level students, this is very helpful because it gives them ideas what to say next if they've got the list. You might have noticed that I put on the slide prompts two ways. And the other way is a bit sneaky because it's not going to be prompts. These are going to be more like obstacles. So for higher level students, they might prepare a list of words which the other student has to use, but which are not in a natural, logical way connected with the topic, but they will still have to use them. Another idea, which you can use either together with the taboo words or together with the prompts in either of the two versions I mentioned, is what I call conversation sticky bits. And by that I mean sentences or even longer fragments of text which actually do not add anything to the content of what the student is supposed to be saying. they simply allow the student not to stop talking. So they fill the silence, so to speak. I'm going to give you a few examples. So it might be something like, well, this is quite a difficult question. I've never really thought about this before. I would have to read more about it to actually express an opinion. Or it reminds me of a story my uncle told me once, but I do not remember the details. So you have no idea what my topic is. I haven't added anything. I just managed not to shut up. And again, if you think the students might overuse those conversation sticky bits, again, you might stipulate that they are not allowed to use them, for example, more than 3 or 2 times when it's their turn to speak before another student takes over. So let's go to why do it, why to do it. So this is, as I said, an improvisation inspired activity. And the students here are put in a very unusual situation because in real life, they can hesitate all they want, they can pause all they want, they can actually stop talking when they have nothing to say. And here, this obligation to keep speaking, to keep going, even if it's difficult, even if they have nothing really good to say, it makes them, in a way, stretch their linguistic skills, their linguistic resources, and get them or make them get to a level that they might not get to without being pushed towards it, nudged towards it by us and by the conditions imposed on this activity. And it's, of course, because this is a fluency focused activity. The students do not, so to speak, lose here when they make a mistake. They lose when they stop talking. So they have to keep trying, even if it's hard. Okay, let's go to the next activity, which is called the gift. So this is another improvisation inspired activity, as probably most of drama activities are. So here, students working ideally in pairs will, student A will pretend to be giving a gift to student B, indicating with different gestures and perhaps sounds what the shape, size, perhaps weight of the present is. And student B will have to react accordingly, commenting on the gift. And of course, student A will comment on the comment given by student B. So there are two ways in which to do that. The first one is called yes, but. But perhaps first I should mention that because the student A is only pretending to be giving a gift, they, in the course of this conversation, it might or might not become clear what the gift actually is. So nobody says it, nobody names it. So anyway, this first condition that you might impose on this activity is that the students, every time they make a comment, they have to begin their comment with yes, but. So let's say that student A pretends to be giving a gift to student B and says, I've always wanted to give you something like this. To which student B can reply, yes, but how did you know I needed this? I love it, it's so pink. To which student A replies, yes, but did you notice that you can actually change the color of this gift by pressing on that button over here? To which student B might reply, yes, but why would I want to change the color? I love pink, etc. I hope you get the gist. The other way is to use yes and instead of yes but. So this time student A gives the present without saying anything, and student B says, this is such a large box. To which student A replies, yes, and it's really heavy too. It's because I love you, man. To which student B might say, yes, and I love you too. Thank you so much. And they could continue by giving more information about the gift, and every time the other student has to react to what was actually said, even though they might have some kind of agenda when they start. So would you like to, one more thing. You can combine these two ways, and one student might begin with yes, but, the other one with yes, and. So this will be really challenging because the students will have to remember which one is theirs and not to use the other student's beginning. So would you like to try it? I know it will be much, much less fun than in real life, and there will be a delay, but if you would like to try it, I could give you a gift and we can try maybe the yes, but version. So please type if you want to try it. If not, just write not, and I will go on with the next idea. You don't want my gift, and I got it especially for you. It's waiting next to my laptop. Okay, nobody is typing anything, or maybe there is a delay. Yes, Kasia says yes. I know, Kasia, thank you for accepting my gift then. Okay, so let's try it. Thank you, George. So we'll do it this way. I'm going to show the gift to you using my camera, and I'm going to look at the chat and see what you type, and don't get mad if I don't pick your comment. I will pick the first one I can see, okay? And I will reply using yes, but. So remember, we are using yes, but. Okay, so let's go. So this is the gift, okay? Okay, so I hope you can see it. So see, it's over here. So I really was hoping that you would like my gift, and it's really fluffy. It's really fluffy. Can you see it? Use your imagination. It's really, really fluffy. So I'm waiting for someone to write yes, but. In real life, it will be much faster, of course. Okay. Yes, but it doesn't move. Yes, but if it moved, I wouldn't be able to show it to you because it would escape from my palm. What do you say to that? Sorry, Monica, Kasia, and Virginia. It's not fluffy enough, but I hate fluffy toys, somebody wrote. Yes, but I'm sure you will love it. It's one of a kind. It can blow up, somebody wrote. Yes, it could, but if you read the manual, and you will find out how to use it, it won't blow up. It will be perfectly safe. Okay. You are making comments to my previous ones as well. So I will pick something that you commented to what I've just said about the manual. Oh, yes, but I can't read, George, right? Yes, but I'm sure you know somebody who can, and you can ask them to read it for you. So let's stop. I hope you get the gist how to conduct this activity. And in real life, it's really fun. So I wanted to point out something. Here we use this idea of yes, but or yes, and to talk about the present. But when you think about it, you can use this idea to talk about any topic or even to generate ideas to prepare for writing. So yes, and will be used to generate examples that kind of go in the same direction, things in the same vein, things that elaborate on or expand on a topic, on an idea. And yes, but will be used to generate counter arguments. This will allow the students to look at an issue from a different angle, from a different perspective. And you might use it, for instance, when the students are preparing to write an essay or something similar. So these are the other applications I mentioned. Okay, let's go to the next idea, caught lying, hence the red hand on the slide. This is a storytelling activity. So obviously our students will be using past tenses, but there is a twist to how the stories must be told. So if the students work in pairs, one of them is the storyteller, the other one is the interrupter. If you've got more students, the rest of them will be the interrupters. So the storyteller begins telling their story, and it could be something they improvise, or it could be something that you give them a preset number of elements, a number of preset elements. So, for instance, you must start with this sentence, or you must have the following characters, or the place, or the time, or you must tell the story that ends in a given way. So whichever version you use, the storyteller begins, and from time to time, the interrupter has to interrupt, as the name suggests, saying, no, you didn't, or no, you weren't. Or if the storyteller actually used the negative, the interrupter will say, yes, you did, or no, you were. And the storyteller must react, either admitting to lying or perhaps pretending to be forgetful, and they have to change the story, changing the lie into something that is true. So I want to give you an example which shows that this can be done in many ways. So let's say at some point in the story, the storyteller says, and then I started crying. The interrupter goes, no, no, you didn't. The storyteller goes, oh, you were right. I didn't start crying. I started laughing. Of course, I started laughing. Or they might say, of course, I didn't start crying. I didn't. My sister did. Of course, my sister always cries in such situations, etc. And of course, if you want to avoid the students interrupting each other incessantly, because obviously they will do that, you might stipulate that they are allowed to interrupt each other only after after, for example, 2 or 3 sentences that the storyteller said, only in this situation. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a variation on the topic, prompts, introducing prompts. And here I put who has them because there are 3 basic scenarios in this story, in this activity. So the first version is with both the speaker and the interrupter have the prompts, the words which the speaker has to use. So the interrupter will interrupt the speaker in such places where it will be quite difficult to use these words. And the storyteller has to use the prompts only immediately after being interrupted. And you know what this means. If the storyteller wants to use these words and they are interrupted in a place where it's difficult to do so, they will have to produce longer sentences. And if there ever was time to flex your conjunctions, baby, it's right now. I believe conjunctions should be in the arsenal of every student, and now it's a perfect time to use them. The second version is when only the storyteller has the prompts. So the interrupter has no idea what the words are, and the storyteller will try to kind of anticipate where the interrupter might interrupt them, and they will try and tell the story in such a way that if interrupted, they might more easily use these words. But of course, if the interrupter doesn't do that in the spots they want, they will have to try and produce longer sentences, and as I've said. And the third version is when it's the interrupter who's got the prompts. And the storyteller has no idea which words the interrupter wants them to use, so they will just keep going, changing the story when interrupted. But the interrupter has a job of trying to get the storyteller to say these words. They might not succeed, but if they do, it's really sweet. The satisfaction is great. Okay, let's go to the forgetful storyteller, the next activity. So here It's in a way a flipped version of the caught lying activity. Notice that in the caught lying activity, the storyteller is interrupted and they have to change their story in this spot picked by the interrupter. In the forgetful storyteller version, it's the storyteller who decides when to stop and admit to be forgetful, to being forgetful. So they kind of go like, okay, and then I went, where did I go? I cannot remember. And the storyteller has to supply the interrupter, sorry, not the interrupter, the student B, the listener, has to provide them with the information they seemingly forgot. So they will go like, you went to the supermarket, remember? And the storyteller goes, oh, you were right, I went to the supermarket because my mom wanted me to get, what did she want me to get? And the listener goes, eggs, eggs. And you go as the storyteller, of course, eggs and milk, because we were going to make an omelette, etc. And they will just keep going. Would you like to try this one? Let's try it. I will not wait for you to say so. Let's try it. I'm going to start telling a story and I will pretend to forget. And you will give me some details. Remember, I will just pick a place where I don't remember some kind of maybe name, action, number. It can be anything I want. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so today in the morning, I remembered that I had to prepare. But what did I have to prepare for? I have no idea. You have to help me out. What did I have to prepare for? A test. Thank you, Paulina. You are right. It was a test, but it was a very special test. This test was something that I actually wanted to prepare for my students, and I had forgotten about it. And I sat at my desk and I started working on the test. I opened a folder and I saw something. But what did I see? What did I see in my folder? What did I see in my folder? I wonder if you know what I've got on my computer. Photos of funny cats. Thank you, Paulina. You are right. I pretend to be a dog lover, but in fact, I secretly love cats. And I've got probably the biggest folder on my computer is funny cats. Okay, and one more. And I picked one of the photos, and this was a photo of a cat doing something. But there were so many photos that I cannot remember what the cat was doing in this particular photo. Can you please tell me, help me remember what it was? Laundry. The cat was doing laundry. Yes, this was a photo of a cat that I employ because I'm super lazy. I employ a very talented cat that does laundry for me. And this cat is especially good at folding clothes. So I recommend this cat. Okay, so let's stop here. So I hope you get the gist. And in real life, it's a lot of fun. And here the storyteller decides where to stop and the other students supply the missing details. So I wanted to mention something. The last three activities, thank you, Paulina, for laughing out loud. So the last three activities I mentioned, so the gift, the caught lying activity, and the forgetful storyteller are, in my opinion, great for two main reasons. The first reason being is that they are focused on fluency. The students are expected to keep talking. They are not expected to beat themselves up about mistakes that they will inevitably make. They have to keep talking. And the other thing which I like about these activities is that they give students a kind of structure, some conditions, some stipulations that they have to work around and shape what they say around or within this structure. I'm sure some of you at least saw Louisa's webinar on creativity. I think it was a month ago, and she mentioned the so-called paradox of the structure, where actually giving total freedom to students will not produce great results. If we give them some conditions, limitations, they will produce more creative ideas, more creative solutions. Okay, let's go to, I just said it, why do it? So let's go to the next one. It's called the inquisitive listener, and my love for dogs, pretended or not, can be seen here. I do not have a slide with a cat. I'm sorry. So anyway, here ideally students work in pairs again, and one of them starts either telling a story or giving an opinion on a topic, and student B, the listener, has to be inquisitive about different details in the story, interrupt them, and ask for details. So they are actually making the life of the speaker more difficult. So one way in which to do that is to use the definite article. So for instance, the speaker, the storyteller begins and at some point says, and then I had to go and buy an umbrella. To which the inquisitive listener goes, tell me about the umbrella from your story. So speaker A, the storyteller, must react and give some details. For instance, well, I wanted to buy a black one, but there were only pink ones in the shop. To which the listener goes, tell me about the shop. Well, the shop is owned by my neighbor, etc. Of course, here I am exaggerating, because in real life, I would ask the students not to interrupt in every sentence. Just wait, give the storyteller a chance to say something more, 2-3 sentences before you are being inquisitive again. The other version for higher level students might be, tell me about, and then the zero article. So I had to go and buy an umbrella, tell me about umbrellas. So this inquisitive listener, in a way, pretends here to be either an alien who has no idea about anything on Earth, or a person suffering from amnesia who has to relearn everything about everything. So if the listener says, tell me about umbrellas, student A might go, well, umbrellas are accessories we use to protect ourselves from the rain. Tell me about rain, says the listener. Well, rain is water coming from the sky, and plants cannot live without it. To which student B goes, well, tell me about plants then. And again, I'm exaggerating, because in real life, we would allow the storyteller to keep going for a little bit before being interrupted. Okay, what we can do more with this activity, I wouldn't be myself if I didn't think of ways to modify it, would be, of course, I mentioned that we need to ask the students to wait a little bit, but you might ask different, all the pairs working to begin with the same sentence, the story. So when they finish, you might ask them to tell you and to tell others where they actually ended up. How did the story go for them from this first sentence, which was the same for everyone, to end with the ending they got. Even more interesting is to ask them to use the same sentence and for the inquisitive listener to pick the same noun. So let's say how this goes if they pick the same noun from this first sentence. Another idea would be to ask the inquisitive listener to make a list of all the nouns that they asked about. And when they finish, you might either in open class compare the lists, see how it went, or you can ask different pairs to swap their lists. So let's say 2 pairs swap their lists, and now the job of these pairs is to, in a way, reverse engineer the story. Look at this list of nouns and think of a way to use them logically in this story. So how do you make these nouns pop up in the story? They might tell each other what they think the story was, see how close they are to the original, and future use of this idea, ask the students to sign those lists of nouns, put them in your desk, and whip them out sometime later. It could be much later, and give them back to the pairs who wrote them, and ask them to try and first of all remember, see if they can remember what their stories were, or even try to uh, tell the stories again, or maybe write them, filling the blanks, the gaps between these words. And what's more important here, tell them, make this story even better than the first time. And by better, I don't mean that the plot twists must be more interesting. What I mean, make it better linguistically. Use better language, use the language we've learned since you wrote that list. See how much progress you've made since then. And this is what I actually like when my students prepare a teaching aid for me, something I might use later, because students then revisit, retrieve, revise, and of course, improve inevitably, perhaps not dramatically, but still they do. And the last activity, or three little activities grouped together I've got for you tonight, is 3 dialogue frames. I mentioned giving a structure to students when they prepare something they say or write. And I'm going to show you 3 structures or frames for dialogue preparation that you might ask your students to use. The first time, if I used these ideas the first time, I would ask the students first to write these dialogues and then act them out. If you think your students are ready, you might ask them to improvise such dialogues on the spot. So I'm going to show you the first dialogue and read it to you as well. And I wonder if anybody can work out what the instruction was for the students. So student A and B talking. And what are we going to do now? But didn't we decide yesterday that no matter what happened, we wouldn't leave? Because we always do what we decide, don't we? Don't try to go back on your word now. Eventually you'll see I was right. Fine, do what you want then. Great, now you're angry. So what was the instruction? What condition was imposed on this dialogue? Can anybody work it out? Okay, I'll wait a little bit more. The alphabet, thank you. Exactly. So notice that each line begins with the next letter in the alphabet. We've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I personally wouldn't ask my students to write a 26-line dialogue the first time I use that. If you think your students are up for that challenge, go for it. I would just ask them to pick any 6, maybe 8 letters, consecutive letters, anywhere in the alphabet. So they might begin with P if they want, and write a dialogue using this frame. Of course, here we can see that this dialogue kind of begins in the middle of some events when the two people are fighting, but you could give them some kind of goal that they have to achieve, some kind of compromise they must achieve, some kind of thing they must discuss in the dialogue. So let's see if you can work out the second one. This one will be more difficult. And this is a very classic conversation of two people deciding what to do on Friday and what to eat. Let's go to the cinema this Friday. Yes, that sounds great. Then I'll pick you up at 7. No, you picked me up the last time. I'll do that. That's fine by me. Shall we go and eat after the film? Maybe Chinese? Excellent choice. So see, this is a very simple dialogue. A2, B1 students can do that. So what was the instruction here? I wonder if anybody can crack this one. Yes, wow. Thank you for cracking it, George. So each line begins with the same letter that the previous line ended. So we've got Y at the end of Friday and Y at the beginning of yes. T at the end of great and T at the beginning of then, etc. Okay, so let's go to the third one, which will be, I think, easier to work out. Shall we order some sushi tonight? I was hungry when I was writing that. I'm allergic to shellfish, remember? That's right, I forgot. How about Italian? I'm in. Super. What was the instruction here? George, can you do the third one? You've done the first two. I wonder if you know this one. Okay, I'll wait a little bit more. Number of letters in the line. Okay, yes, -1. Yes. So notice the first line begins with 6 words, next 5, and I'm counting contractions as 1 word. So I'm is 1 word, then 4, 3, 2, and 1. You might flip it and you might ask the students to start with 1 word and then go to 6 or 8, how many you as many as you want in this exercise. And again, give them a goal, give them something they need to settle in this conversation. Another idea, which I sneakily put on the next slide, is to do dialogue frame 3+, which is ask the students to go back from 1 word to 6 again. So it ended with super. Next, we've got any preferences. How about lasagna? I had some yesterday. Okay, how about some meatballs? Meatballs sound great. Garlic bread too. If you think that's too much work for one pair of students, you might actually ask 2 pairs of students to work together, and they would swap the dialogues after getting to the first to this line with 1 word, and then the other pair will have to continue with 2, 3, 4, etc. You might even have a relay and ask the students to pass their dialogue to the people who are sitting either in front of them or behind them, depending on your classroom seating situation. If you think that's too much work for one pair to write like a full 6-line dialogue, you might ask in each round to ask the students to write 2 lines. So start with 6 and 5 words, then pass the dialogue to someone else in front or at the back, continue with 4, 3, etc. And in this way, the students, every time they get a worksheet, they get a different dialogue. So even if they had some kind of agenda when they started, they will have to react to what they've got in front of them. Okay, so one more thing I just remembered. You might have an ultimate challenge and combine different dialogue frames. So you might use this one where each line has 1 word less or 1 word more if you want, and the one where each line has to begin with the next letter in the alphabet or with the same letter as the previous line ended. It's going to be tough, but some students might be up for this kind of challenge. Okay, so this was the last activity I prepared for you tonight. I would like to get back to this slide from the beginning, what's up with the drama. I mentioned different benefits of using such activities. Now I would like to very briefly sum up. So first of all, Anya, not yet, I haven't finished. Thank you. So these activities, drama-inspired activities, allow the students to build confidence. um, they allow them to hide behind a mask, so to speak. And by a mask, I don't necessarily mean a role they play, although it might be a role, of course, but it might be simply some intonation. They have to use gestures to make words, to use anything really, any little thing that allows them not to be themselves just for a little while. Because some students are too shy to talk about themselves. Of course, in our lessons, we expect the students to learn how to talk about themselves. And some students really enjoy that. And that's why we often go for personalization activities. But there are students who need the confidence, they need to uh, get ready for it, and drama activities allow them to do that. The other thing is that these activities focus on fluency. The students are not punished for being inaccurate, they are rewarded for being fluent. And don't get me wrong, I want my students to become more accurate. And I devote a lot of time on drilling correct, appropriate, accurate language, but there is a time and a place for both accuracy focused activities and fluency focused activities, and drama ones are those of the latter kind. The next thing is that they allow a lot of creativity. I mentioned the fact that by giving the students some conditions, limitations, a structure, you allow them to come up with more creative ideas. And another thing is that drama activities often result in a lot of laughter and silliness in the classroom. And I'm a big proponent of laughter and silliness in the classroom. And I believe that if used by a teacher who knows what they are doing, but used properly, they are one of the greatest tools we've got at our disposal. So let's take advantage of that. But beware of what I said. Make sure your students are ready to be silly together before you give them such activities. And finally, uh, most often they require no or very little preparation and resources. And it's something I think every busy teacher can appreciate. Because sometimes what we actually need is a room full of human beings. This is a quote from the book whose cover you can see now, Drama Techniques by Alan Malley and Alan Duff, a great resource book of drama-inspired activities geared for the classroom, for the English classroom. I recommend it to everyone. And if you think about it, when you think about it, when you close the door to your classroom and you start your lesson, a room full of human beings is what you've got. So please take advantage of that. And my final tip, something that I try to take to heart every day: if there is to be drama in your classroom, make it the good kind. So thank you very much for your participation, for writing your comments, for your attention. And Anya, you can take over now. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I didn't plan to kind of intrude your presentation.
Oh,
I just
I
kind
know
of,
you thought I had finished. I know.
no, my finger just kind of, was in the bad place, in the bad timing, let's
That's
say.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Eva. Wonderful presentation. Wonderful, really wonderful drama, can I say so?
Yes,
So,
because I'm a drama queen, right?
yeah, drama queen, certainly. So thank you very much. I haven't spotted any memes, throughout the whole presentation,
I
which was,
tried to stop myself.
yeah. So I was kind of really surprised, but okay. For the guys,
Unpredictable, right?
yeah, who don't
I tried
observe
to be.
Eva in social media, Eva is also a meme queen, not only the drama queen. All right, so I can see from the chat that you really enjoyed it. Of course, lots of ideas. So thank you very much, Eva, for your
Thank you,
great
Anya.
presentation. Yes, and I wish you good night. But
Good night,
I have
everyone.
yeah, and for you guys, there's one more announcement that I wanted to make. The one that you've already kind of seen already, because Education is launching another conference in September, which is called Fluency Now. It will be just in English. It will be live on the 24th of September 2022, but also, of course, it will be recorded. And we have already confirmed two international stars. So Scott Thornberry and Paul Sellingson, who are going to take part in our conference, alongside with lots of trainers that you already know, like Luisa Witowicz-Waga, of course, me, but Magda Zawadzka, Dr. Monika Cichmińska, and Tomasz Róg, and lots of different topics concerning fluency, different aspects of fluency, fluency or accuracy. So it's a we really believe it's a really important conference, and it's a really important topic of fluency teaching and also probably evaluating. But now we've already started the pre-sale, but today for you till midnight we have, of course, a discount, because the price in PLN is 249 zlotys and euros 55. But I will just paste the link for you so you can just have a look at it. But there is a special code. So when you go to this website, because probably if you watch the recording, you don't see the address. So it's edunation.com.pl/fluency now. But with the code START, just start, very easy, just 5 letters, discount code, you get either 50% 50 zlotys discount, or 10 euros, depending which line, which path you choose to register, either in zlotys or in euros. So remember, 50 zlotys or 10 euros, the code START, because when you go to this website that you've already seen in the chat box, you can decide if you want to sign up in Polish currency or in euros. So I really hope to see you there. Lots of great knowledge, lots of great presenters, again, Forum Edunation in September. So I hope to meet you there, and let's probably go to sleep, because I think majority of us is from a place where you probably want to go to sleep right now. All right. So Eva, once again, thank you very much. Thank you all for coming today. It was a wonderful, very humble, right? Very nice presentation, great teacher training. Okay, thank you very much. Modest and humble. Okay, never mind. I need to go to sleep. Bye bye. Yes, in English. It will be in English. Everything in English. It's an international conference which will be recorded. So yeah, in English. No Polish at all. Nothing. No Polish. Thank you. Bye bye.